And if the answer is not something that you were supposed to give, it points you back to your learning process, which is exactly what a teacher would do. And yes, a lighter joke is about Dirac. When he was asked to explain something, a concept that he spoke about, the joke is that Dirac repeated exactly the same sentence that he spoke, but in a longer period of time. He was slowing down. And when somebody asked him, but that's exactly what you said. He said, this is the best way I can think of answering the concept. So sometimes it happens. The two-way communication works for
yeah, because I think very often how the class unfolds on a given day.
That is right. The class unfolds.
All the students have been responding.
No, but the point is, the problem is no longer the class alone. The class is already a privileged community. You are available to them. There are those people who are not there. You don't have a choice on them. So hopefully, after reading some of your lectures, they will come back, they will write to you, and they will come back. Or we assume that a reasonable percent of those students are actually interested in learning, but they don't have a good learning material to start. So, no, you can't replace. Face-to-face teaching, you can never replace. I think I agree with what Michael said. In the end, my lectures will serve as small notes for communities to learn among themselves, where a smaller number of teachers will take them and explain them to them. That social networking has to be built, where there's multiple communications missing. But it's possible. Today's social networking is a very easy thing.
Are there any more questions?
So,
yeah, please.
Okay. I was just wondering whether, this NPTEL, which has been going on for almost 10 years or so.
About, in sciences for the last 4 years. In technology, engineering and technology, yes, for about 10 years now.
Yeah, so is there any attempt to understand how it has actually improved the ground level situation?
Yes,
For example, I would say that if someone goes through goes through these materials during his BTech, when he goes for an MTech, there should be a qualitative difference in
we are noticing we are noticing it right now.
Yeah, so
we are
this measure actually.
Yeah. The measure comes through feedback analysis. The measure takes a long time. See, learning paradigms cannot be understood within 2 years. The unfortunate thing is government has 5 years. Every government mandate is 5 years. Every project mandate is 3 years. Education doesn't happen in 3 years, not even 5 years. Education takes a much longer period. But what you have to do is, in that period, you have to create a reason for your continuation of this for the next level. And one of the things we did was the feedback analysis. One, we wanted to find out how the students are learning, what they were learning for. I didn't put up those 10 questions. I did a feedback analysis with about 30,000 respondents. We have an online feedback survey. So 30,000 respondents, we asked the question, why are you learning NPTEL? And is it at the same level at which your college courses are? If there is a difference, what would you call it as a difference? What is the relevance of this to your curriculum? What is the match between what is in the NPTEL and your curriculum? 70%, 50%, 80%, we asked them to quantify the numbers. So we have some statistics, but most importantly, many of our faculty members today, they say the incoming MTech students, those who have learned it from NPTEL are immediately able to follow the MTech class courses and better over the semester or two. And therefore, there is a small incentive for our own effort in bringing better students to our own campus. It is there, but I can't give you a quantitative figure that 70% or 100%, 90% understood. That number will not come out until you have reached about 10 years or 11 years of repeated feedback. But that's no, that's a very important issue for sustaining the project and following the directions in which it should be done. Feedback is needed.
The actual operational part of this whole process, are these lectures recorded in a live classroom? Or
Both. It's up to the faculty member to decide.
But then, don't you think that in a live classroom the lectures are better designed or better delivered than in an empty classroom?
No, you would, it all depends on the individual.
Sir, I have watched both the classroom lecture and also the
picture delivering on it.
Yeah.
But I feel that because I watched the Professor Balakrishnan lecture delivering in the class, and I feel it better that if I watch the classroom lecture,
Right.
so there the person asks some questions, some students.
Right.
So I feel the classroom lecture is better than.
Yeah, that's one of the that's your opinion.
Because sometimes I get some doubt and a student who is in the class at that time,
Okay.
he also having the same doubt and he asks the question and professor explains it. So
Yeah, I'll answer both the questions.
Yeah,
in one
it's a
form.
student point of view.
No, it's just no. There is not one correct educational model in delivering lectures to students who are not in your classroom. These lectures are not for the students who are in the classroom. These are lectures given to students like you and others who are not part of the classroom. Therefore, you feel that the classroom ambience helps you, that it is being part of it. So that's one way. Then there are others who feel that the classroom lecture becomes very focused to the audience. Your purpose is to provide a slightly larger framework of learning, yes, often a slower way of explaining things, because suppose you talk to the IIT BTech students of the 4th year, you would imagine that certain derivations you will not even bother to write, you will simply skip the steps. But the point is, you are addressing these lectures to students who haven't had that learning before. So if you don't have a classroom, then you have all the time available to elaborate what needs to be explained in detail, which you won't do in your class, because the students already know it and they will be bored. Balakrishnan, if he starts writing down the derivations of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, I don't think anybody will bother, because he's already gone through that and you already know that. So there are multiple models for this. About half the lectures of the NPTEL were recorded without anybody. I recorded every one of my lectures without a single student.
But sir, if it's not a classroom kind of thing, then something like edX should be there, because I attended a course on quantum computation from Umesh Vajrani.
Yeah.
So actually there was something like you ask a question and someone somewhere in the world is working on that problem, and you get the reply in something like 20 or 30 minutes.
That's a networking. That's a networking. That's different from the question that you are asking.
Classroom thing.
That's a support. That's a support. What is called the mental support. See, you need to follow a lecture and immediately you don't understand, so you will shoot the question basically like you were, any of the FAQs that you want to learn. Suppose you want to learn software and you don't understand it, you put a question on the software and suddenly somebody from that group answers you. That's an added feature to the course. That's not necessarily part of the initial course. What you are asking for a faculty to respond to a question, that will not happen unless the faculty says, okay, I'm available on this day. Any of you who want to come online, who want to ask me questions, either you send the questions ahead of time to me and then I will answer them, or you ask them. But that's a synchronous learning. The online learning synchronous is very difficult to carry out for large numbers. It's always effective for a smaller class. That way, one-to-one class, even in a one-to-one class, 120 student class is much more difficult to follow the students completely than a 30 student class. In a 30 student, you can design processes to see every one of them learns. 120 you cannot. You can only do groups. You can only put students into bimodal distribution or a trimodal distribution. Or on the internet, you don't know, it's a multimodal. But the point is, whatever you say should be seen by the other person as correct, conceptually right, and following a certain pattern. So they may not be able to understand it the first time, but they can have their own peer group, just like you said, a social networking group, where you shoot the question and somebody answers. They can form a peer group among themselves and answer each other. We don't have a choice in the process. We have only 100 teachers for 10,000 students. So how can we reach all the 10,000 students? Technology puts that limitation. So he's right. One-to-one, there is no replacement. There's no replacement. But it helps if you learn from MIT lectures, Stanford lectures. I've listened to quite a lot of the theoretical physics lectures in the Stanford. This is the same professor who has given about 7 or 8 courses. He teaches a class consisting of 85-year-old, that is his oldest student, and a 22-year-old, he's his youngest student. He has a heterogeneous class. He teaches and records it. You haven't seen those things, isn't it? Susskind.
Yeah,
Suskind's lectures.
Leonardo Susskind.
Yeah, Suskind's lectures you should listen to. And amazing, he makes blunders in the class. He's a recorder. He makes blunders. I mean, he was trying to write a 0-1-1-0 matrix for nearly about 15 minutes before he realized he had everything wrong, but that's the matrix that he had to write. And I was just following, how is he going to correct this error? I was following. At the end he said, what a stupid thing to do in my class. And it's all recorded. He doesn't care. He said, of course, making mistakes is part of one's academic, but corrected within the classes. So, yeah, these are very interesting ways of doing things. But I tell you, we have a problem of having to teach a large number of students what is called the more or less an average curve instead of the spike to learning of the individuals. You can only provide what is called a baseline to all of them, common amplitude. At the end, it has to be one-to-one correspondence. Up to a point, you can do this. Graduate courses cannot be taught on the internet. PhD courses and things have to be one-to-one if you want to do that. But we have a large number of undergraduates that have to graduate. Phenomenally larger number than any other part of the world. I think the only other country which has largest student population than us is, of course, China. So we have a student population, so how do we correct? So we need a larger network.
Any more questions?
Okay.
If there are no more questions, that's time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.